Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer covering the Las Vegas Raiders and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. It's great to have you on today. I bring in my good friend Matt Hladek like I do each and every week. He joins us as we talk about the Raiders and the NFL, and we get into a lot of details about the NFL and the league. Matt, you'll be pleased to hear this. My wife and I were at dinner with some friends over the weekend, and the guy looked at me and goes, "My favorite pod is when you're with Matt Hladek." So big shout out to Greg Martin, and
I
you are
appreciate it.
his. He loves you.
I definitely appreciate it. So tell him I appreciate the love and I send it back to him.
All right, I got a lot that I want to get into today. I want to start with the NFL. There's been a lot of talk about changing the offseason. You guys have talked about it a lot at the Spun. Let's get into it. Tell us about the proposal.
Well, I think hold on, let me make sure I bring it up so I get the get all the details correct. So I don't there's talk about the OTAs being eliminated for a longer training camp, which
Mhm.
would kind of get rid of all the stuff that's done in the spring. Um, Teams have been doing OTAs late May into early June, and instead, teams would go into training camp in mid-June. So you're talking about starting training camp, a little after this time in the year, and would run through July, mid-July, as opposed to mid-August, end of August. The benefit could be vet players get more of a break and aid in their recovery in the offseason by not having to worry about having OTAs and then training camp.
Uh-huh.
However, the issue is, and this is where Albert Breer actually was responding to the report from NFL Network, that there's a couple of reasons why I think players, coaches, and anybody would be against it. Um, the first and foremost is because the month of July or month of maybe mid late June into mid July, excuse me, is a calendar month where a lot of people take vacation, and it's kind of built into the calendar. And if you're in the NFL, you don't get a ton of time off. But the same thing, from covering college too, when there was that dead period in the summer with recruiting in between, like camps, prospect camps, and training camp. That's when a lot of college coaches would go on vacation with their families or would go do things. Same thing with the NFL. So you have that built in, which I think is a major reason why a lot of people would be against it. That's what Albert Breer said. And the other thing is that, to me, if you're having training camp in June and July, that means you're opening up earlier preseason games. So you're talking about preseason games in July, like changing the entire calendar. Now we do know they want to eliminate a preseason game and they go an 18 game schedule. That's been widely discussed and reported and speculated on. But even if they did that, it seems like this calendar would be a little bit ambitious even for doing that. So I don't know. I kind of like the way the NFL calendar is. Yes, listen, I understand it's easy for me to say that. I'm not playing, I'm not coaching. Um, but I like the way that it's built. I like the way it kind of flows. You go from your season to your postseason, you right into your draft season, free agencies mixed in there, and then you go right to mini camps, OTAs, a little bit of a lull, training camp. I think it's great the way that sets up. So hopefully, I would prefer if they didn't change.
So let me share this with you. I have talked to a lot of players, coaches, executives, not all Raiders, not implying I've talked to the whole Raiders team I have. I've just talked to a lot of guys from a lot of different teams and organizations. I've not heard one that likes it. Not one. I mean, zero. And I didn't like it. I hated it. But I thought, well, I mean, I kept asking because I was trying to get somebody who said they liked it. Matt, I couldn't find anybody.
Yeah,
And
I don't know. I think it's just trying to do a little bit too much and try to make a change for the sake of making a change. And part of me wonders if it would be done also, and this is the cynical side of you're thinking of everything with the NFL, like we talked about with the bottom line, if it wouldn't be done to make more marquee preseason matchups or do something to enhance the preseason schedule while they're simultaneously contracting it to add another regular season game. So I don't know. I don't really like it. Like for the reasons that Abu Greer said, I pretty much agree with and I outlined here. I think the way the calendar's set up now is, fantastic for the NFL to really maintain that 24/7, 365 vibe they have going.
Right. So I want to talk about something else. A few weeks ago, I made the comment that I don't see the NFLPA agreeing to a new collective bargaining agreement or any major changes unless there are changes to Roger Goodell and his basically being God over appeals and everything else. Now, after I said that on the podcast, I heard from multiple people who told me, no way, he is not going to get any more give or changes to the collective bargaining agreement till he gives that up. Now, I was talking recently to someone who carries a lot of weight with the players, a lot of weight. And they said to me, we learned in the past about strikes before most of these guys were born, but they understand striking was not good. And he said the only issue that I could see a strike is players saying no more Roger Goodell being the guy. We want a player represented, a member of ownership represented, and then a third neutral party. And then the three of them will vote and make the decision. I found this to be fascinating because I just mentioned what one person said, and then people started to talk to me. Matt, is this the looming? Now, we're still a few years away, but they're talking about wanting to go to 18. I think they would probably let them go to 18, but they're going to have to expand the roster. That means expand the salary cap, everything else. There is a looming fight coming with this. Do you think the owners are dug in and want that fight? To me, I can't see the owners wanting that fight. I'd love your thoughts.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like this kind of plays back on what we discussed recently on here, where the NFL is king. And I think the only thing the NFL could do to knock itself off that perch, or not knock itself off, but maybe take itself down a peg or two, is something self-inflicted. And self-inflicted, I think, would include a lockout, prolonged lockout, or a strike, any type of longer work stoppage. So I don't think the owners really want that, especially when you think about the way the league just is printing money now. I mean, it's just what they do. But again, I think that 18 game schedule, I would bet money that it's coming. I think it's been too widely reported and discussed. I think the players know it's coming now. By the time the new CBA would get, uh, ratified and put in, I think it's 2030 or 2031. So we have a few years, like you said. So some of these guys, probably a good portion of these guys, are not even going to be in the league at that time. But even so, the players, for the most part, I don't think are in love with the 18th game because they know the wear and tear it could take on their body, even though it is an extra game check and things like that. So I think there's going to have to be some fairly sizable concessions on the owner's side. Like you said, they're going to have to do something with expanding rosters. Salary cap will obviously change. And like you said, with this, issue, are they willing to dig in their heels? And you don't know. I mean, listen, Goodell is just re-upped. He's on cruise control basically as a commissioner. But how much longer is he going to be there at that point? Number one, and number two, does he really feel like him and the owners digging in for a potentially prolonged fight over that issue.
Happier man today than basically Roger Goodell seeing the John Gruden case essentially come to an end. They said, yeah, they've got to go back to arbitration. I mean, this, I believe, was going to cost Goodell his job if the Nevada court would have let it go on to a trial where there would have been discovery.
Yeah.
This was a monster thing that we're noticing gets swept under the rug. I don't think this is anything to sweep under the rug.
No, I think like you said, the last thing the NFL wants in any of these cases, whether it was the Gruden email and then the lawsuit here, whether it's stuff with Daniel Snyder in the past, whether it was the collusion lawsuit with Colin Kaepernick, the NFL doesn't want anything to have to come out in discovery, because then you go open up Pandora's box of who might have said what or did what, and the league doesn't want that. So for them to have this, like you said, kind of get pushed to the side and not have it go that extra step, is definitely a sigh of relief for the powers that be.
I'm going to ask you a different question, but along the same route, because we've been really talking a lot about the NFL being the only thing that can kill itself. And I don't even think that from the player side. I think it from the leadership and ownership side. My question to you is this: what do you think are the biggest dangers on the horizon to the NFL?
It's a great question, and it's tough to maybe say definitively. I do think I do think the all-encompassing subject of player safety goes into that, in terms of do fans feel that the game becomes too watered down or bastardized, almost, where it's like, it's not what we expect or what we're used to from football. As is it overly legislated? Is contact or certain things taken out of the game? That's a threat. I don't know if it's the major overriding threat, but that's something I think you can hear. I think that we've touched also on gambling down the road, and if that is an issue with, you know, players or personnel betting on things, or betting on games. And, we already said that there's an issue with, that's not just the NFL, but other professional sports as well, where there are some fans who think that if it's not rigged, that the officials are having significant intentional impacts on the outcomes of games. So I think that's something that's kind of, lurking. Other
The
than,
alienation of the fans, to me,
yeah.
they better be careful. They better be careful. So this is where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
I recently had an interaction with a person who is involved in sports television, not a personality and a talent, but a bigwig, an executive. Not going to say who for and what. He and I have a mutual friend, and we were at a gathering together. I want to be real careful because I don't want anyone to be able to
Mm-hmm.
pick up. And we were talking about sports. We were talking about Netflix, um, Apple TV, Prime, all of this stuff. And he said some things that blew my mind. He asked me, "Do you know what the fastest growing sport in the NFL is?" I mean, in the country
Right.
is. And I said, "Yeah, NFL." He said, "No,
Pickleball.
NFL is growing." He goes, "NFL is king and NFL is growing." He said, "But if you weigh 100 pounds and gain 10, you've only gained 10% of your body weight. If you weigh 10 pounds and add 2, you've had 20%. He goes, "The NFL is so big, it's still growing." He goes, "And there's no mistaking it's the big dog." But listen to what he said to me. He goes, "The fastest growing sport is UFC." He says NBA is tanking or going backwards. WNBA, because of Caitlin Clark and all of that, and Reese, they have now their bird magic. He said WNBA is second. He goes, hockey is a distant third. He said, but baseball, NBA, backwards. And he said, UFC's coming. And and we got into this. And so he started talking about part of the reason that the NFL is proliferating and going to all these streaming is because then it keeps everybody else off of them. Now, I want you to think about that. Does that shock you? That stunned me. And I have not been able to fact check it, but I have no reason to not believe him. He told me, he goes, I think that it will not be long. He goes, and we're going to see UFC overtake a ton of it because it's fast acting, it's short rounds, it's boom, 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 boom. Again, I was shocked, but he talked about the NFL is without question the biggest dog. It's take all the rest together, they don't equal the NFL. Does that surprise you? And does that make sense to you know maybe why they're doing streaming to try to box out some other sports that are coming from getting on there?
Well, I think that you've seen in terms of the NFL trying to move in on the territories of other sports. I think that's without a question something the league does. I never really thought about it from a streaming perspective. The one place where I did think about it is the expansion of Christmas Day, because for years, even though the
NBA.
NFL was king, the NBA owned Christmas. That was the big thing. There was really no, I remember being a kid, the Blue Gray All Star game, and I think the Hula Bowl used to be on college football on Christmas, but there was no real college football, no college basketball. It was all about the NBA. The NBA owned Christmas. And now you're seeing the NFL move in and really overtake it from a ratings perspective on Christmas. So the NFL encroaching on other sports turf or trying to maintain, that kind of dominance over the territory is something that definitely happens. I never would have thought about it in the context of them worried about like a UFC or something like that when they're going to all these streaming services. What I do think it does is the fact that it kind of just continues their footprint and they just find different ways to carve out audiences in every single medium. Because look at it. I mean, fans, I think, because listen, I've talked about it with you on here. I can't, it annoys me to a little bit, all streaming services. And, even with baseball, if you're a Yankee fan, this week the Yankees are on Amazon Prime, they're on Apple TV Plus, they're on all these different networks and streaming services. It's tough to find a game. And the NFL, now you're seeing them expand too. So I think that is something that annoys fans, but it hasn't done enough to kind of turn them away. Because I'm telling you, here's what's going to happen. I happen to be somebody who has these different subscriptions for either had them to just have them, for watching shows or watching sports or whatever. So I have a Netflix account. I got Amazon Prime, Peacock, whatever.
I don't have Peacock. I got Netflix, Amazon, and Apple.
So I have all four, but it's those, and I know some people will have two of the four or three or four, whatever. But even the people that don't have one of those accounts, come Christmas Day or whenever it's going to be on there, or the playoffs when that game's on Amazon Prime, they're going to go somewhere that has the stream. They're going to ask their buddy or their family member for the login info, and they're going to watch it. They're going to sign up for a free trial. It might even entice them to subscribe long term if they like it. So the NFL, I think, is always trying to make those inroads there. I never thought about it though from the perspective of, are they worried about like a UFC or another up and coming sport? That's interesting to me.
I want to make it clear.
Not yet.
The gentleman wasn't saying the NFL is afraid of the UFC.
Right. Okay.
But like last year, they went to Christmas Day to send a message to the NBA.
Right.
And they believe they were sending a message to some of the other up and comers, don't mess with us. Don't
I
pretend
agree.
like you're something that you're not, and they're being the big bully.
That to
All right,
me is 100% probably happening. 100%. So I would agree with that. Definitely.
pretty fascinating, isn't it?
Very, very.
Right. So next thing, and I thought this was interesting. A few weeks ago, I told you about talking a week ago with NFL executives about Tom Brady
Mhm.
and the two concerns, him being on the broadcast and him being an owner and getting a alleged discount rate. So in talking to some of the people that I talked to, I asked them if they felt like there were any other issues that or anything coming on the horizon with the NFL. You may remember a few weeks ago, I had asked some of these same guys about expansion, and I asked about a particular city, San Antonio. And the one man who I believe would have knowledge of what the thinking process is said to me, Austin would get a team before San Antonio. And he goes, a lot of people aren't talking Austin. He goes, but if you look at how fast it's growing, you look where it's at, located in the state. You've already got Houston, you've already got Dallas. What do you that blew my mind? I'm going to something else, but just quickly, what would you think of that? I mean, I would not have even considered Austin.
That's interesting because here's the thing. You look at that Dallas, or you look at that Texas market, and it's overwhelming. You know, the Cowboys are the brand, the franchise, but obviously the Houston Texans have a large following, and they look like they might be up and coming uh, within the league too. Adding a third team in Texas would be really interesting because I mean, you think about you. It seems like when you look at the major sports leagues, you hear some of the same um, names for potential expansion. Like if you look for MLB, you hear a lot about Charlotte and Nashville. NBA, a lot of people have said, "Well, I'd love to see the Seattle get a team against." Um, but those three cities that we just named for the NFL, obviously they already have franchises. So now you're looking at a little bit of a different off the beaten path type thing. And Austin, that would really be fascinating to me because Austin's also in a heavy college football market. It's the University of Texas is, and again, Texas football is king in Texas. There are UT fans that are big Cowboys fans or Texans fans, I'm sure, that pay attention to the NFL on Sundays. But Austin is very much a college town and very much, completely devoted to Texas football. So them putting an NFL team in there, that's something I never really even thought about them as a city.
Man, if I hadn't had an NFL person drop that to me, I would never in a million years thought about it. All right. And all of this stuff came out of the Tom Brady discussion.
Mhm.
So I got one other thing that they told me. I've never talked about this publicly until right now. They said another one is going to be um, selling space on the jerseys or on the field for advertising. I could not believe this was even a thought. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's been heavily discussed. Do they let each team sell a patch, or does the NFL go sell the patch and for the whole league? He said there's been a ton of discussion about this one. I don't know if it's been discussed at the owner level, but it's been discussed. What would you, to me, I don't think it matters. I don't think people will like it, but I don't think it matters. But I thought it was fascinating. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that's literally what it'll be. I think most people won't like it. I think most people will kind of get over it because that's kind of the route that fans have taken with MLB, NBA. I believe I can't. I'm trying to think if NH hockey has it. I'm not sure. I know like MLS, the Women's Soccer League, and WNBA, they all have jersey ads, so it's become a huge thing. Um, it does seem like that's you're like, I can't believe the NFL hasn't done that yet. Um, So it wouldn't shock me. I think that it'd be one of those things that the fans would react negatively to it in the moment, but then I think you kind of just get used to it because if you look at it, again, I not just saying because I'm a fan, but and I'm in New York area, but the Yankees aren't, an iconic brand and
Mhm.
the jerseys that haven't been touched for the most part in ever. And they added jersey patches a couple of years ago, and it was this huge deal, and it became, a lot of fan base hated it. And I think deep down, people probably still don't love it, or they didn't even love, the Nike swoosh because they had the swoosh logo on the jersey. But I think you just kind of get used to it. And I think is what's going to happen with the NFL. So it's going to be one of those things where if and when it's eventually announced, fans won't like it, but you'll kind of get used to it, and it'll just be another avenue of revenue for them.
Is there a danger of too much advertising?
I
Where
mean,
and
from an
I'm let me think now as an advertiser. Is there a danger of, okay, you got so like for example, I was told that a sticker this big, so what's that? Probably 8 inches by maybe 3, 8 by 4 on a NASCAR, how much it costs. Well, they're going 200 miles an hour. I don't I mean, I remember Jeff Gordon drives a DuPont. I think it was DuPont. Um, and I know Tony Stewart drove a Home Depot, and Junior drove a Mountain Dew car.
who was
Okay.
Winston? Was it Dale Earnhardt? Who had the Winston car? It was like a real
Yeah, that was
cigarette.
Dale Earnhardt.
It was
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But and Mr. Goodwrench after they quit advertising cigarettes. But my point is, I can understand if you do one patch, I think people will notice it and see it. There can be too much too. And like this one person said to me, he goes, I don't like the idea. I go, why? And he goes, oh, the owners are going to love anything that brings more money.
Mhm.
He goes, the players are going to like anything that brings more money. But this guy said, I'm a purist. And he goes, I don't think the NFL needs to be that guy asking for every dollar. They're already making more dollars than anyone else. Let's not cheapen ourselves. Let's stand out. Let everybody else sell the patches. Let's not. We're already making a bundle of money. I just thought that was fascinating and interesting.
It is, and when you think about the NFL, and then listen, other leagues have several different jersey options and things like that. It's not like the NFL is alone with that. But in addition to the NFL's alternate uniforms now, where they sell additional merchandise off of, they have their salute to service gear, which they make money on that. They have breast cancer awareness, which they make money on that. There's other different ways. There's so many ways where the NFL is able to tap into, um, different resources and ways of making money that they don't need the advertising. So I can see where this guy's coming from saying it's too much. Could be too much. To me, I think I see eventually probably, I can see each team having like one major sponsor. The jersey patches go on the thing, and you got one on maybe the other side of the chest with the sponsorship on it, or on the shoulder or something like that. I
The
don't think they
the
need to go too overboard.
the NFL has done a miraculous job because the game seems seamless even with all the ads because of where they take the breaks. They take them at timeouts, after touchdowns, after punts. I mean, they have really done a masterful job of where they place their commercials, and they do a good one. All right. One more NFL question, and then I'm going to ask you one Raider one. We're going to get you out of here. But I think this is important and it's super late at night. So, um, when you look at the NFL and you look at everything that it's done, what do you think of them selling commercials during the game so they can put a logo on the field that's only visible to the TV market? or saying, wow, that first down brought to you by Budweiser. I mean, these are all things that I'm hearing are all potentials as they're constantly looking for new revenue sources. What do you think of that?
To me, that wouldn't even be something that I would even think about or care about so much because these ads are all over the place. You watch baseball games and they have ads that are shown you can only really see on the broadcast that are on like the
Well,
mound
college
or
football when the nets go up.
the nets go up, hockey around the boards on the rink. They have all that stuff. Yeah, I think that, and listen, things have been sponsored in sports, you know, forever. You know, the Bud Light player of the game or the Chili's starting lines. I always remember Keith Jackson in the '90s doing the Chili's starting lines watching college football. So that stuff I think is just so ingrained and just kind of it's just everywhere, that I wouldn't even really think twice about it if it became reality.
All right. So I need to ask you this when we're going to go Raiders for a minute. Our Michael France did a tremendous article comparing Aiden O'Connell to Josh Allen at this point in his career. His numbers are equal or better. And Gardner Minshew, over the same last number of games that Trevor Lawrence has played, his numbers are significantly better. Are the rumors of the Raiders quarterback room demise overrated right now?
Well, I've said this before. Now, obviously, you have to. It's not, the numbers are only part of the story. You got to obviously take into account during the season coming up how they fit in with the scheme, how are they fitting in with play calling, things like that. Because we've seen different guys have different success or not lack of success depending on the situation. Um, but I do think that their overall, like we said, the demise of the Raiders quarterback room at this point, I think, is a little bit overblown. I think that it's not like you look at if Gardner Minshew enters the season as the backup, you look at a guy who's proven he can play and win some games for you as your backup or spot starter. He's better than a lot of other backups around the league. And then you got, Aiden O'Connell, who's got the first crack at the starting gig. No, we don't know, what he's going to be yet, but he showed enough as a rookie, I think. I can understand why people are questioning right at this point, like, how high is his ceiling, but I don't think it's enough where, you feel like you're totally screwed going into the season with the two of those guys. And again, I'll just keep repeating this, and I've said this a couple of times, and I want to stress it to Raider fans from my perspective. I just think the process they put in out this offseason at the quarterback position made sense because they weren't going to have the opportunity to draft, a major one of the major prospects. No one felt in him at 13. They didn't have the opportunity or they didn't like what they would have had to do to move up or the opportunity to present itself to move up. There was nobody in free agency or trades for them to go get. Signing Kirk Cousins wouldn't have made sense for the Raiders. It makes sense if you're the Falcons and you're in a division that's very winnable.
Wait. It makes sense for the Falcons if you're not picking Michael Penix.
That too, but you're in a division there with the South that's very winnable, and you have a roster that needed a quarterback. The Raiders are still building up to compete to win the AFC West against the Chiefs and be a threat to them over the course of a season. We've obviously seen them beat them head to head in a game, but I think that the Raiders' approach was fine, and I think that the doom and gloom by the quarterback room, I think, is a little bit much at this point. And listen, again, if the season plays out and neither of those guys plays particularly well, or you feel like they don't have a future with you, it's not the end of the world. Now you got to go get your guy next off season because
Totally agree.
you're in fine shape.
Yeah, totally agree. Remember, you can find Matt at thespun.com. It's in my favorites. I read it every day. Matt, real quick, tell them your social media handle.
You can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you're calling it, at Matt Hladik 919, at MATTHLADIK 919. And I'm always down there to talk some ball. And obviously, as we get a little closer to the season, you'll probably see me talking a lot more football on there. And during the year, I'm always live tweeting on Sundays and other national TV games.
Show him your shirt. You're wearing a John Madden shirt for Raider
Yeah,
Nation
I
today.
got
Look at
custom made. A buddy of mine from high school did these. It's John Madden and Pat Summerall with the Madden ambulance from a little too bright to see, but it says, "Oh no, there's a man down," which was I think Madden 93 or 94 was when they would say that. One of the years the ambulance would come out and run guys over on the field. That was like the glitch that has been played for decades on YouTube, which was hilarious. But this was another one
awesome.
where a guy would get hurt and you'd hear Summerall go, "Oh no, there's a man down." So that's what my shirt is tonight.
All right, everybody. Make sure, make sure you're following us at si.com/NFL/Raiders. Yesterday, we did 12 pieces of written content plus all the videos, the reels, everything else. We're cranking out 10 or more pieces a day of written content. It's 100% free. Check it out, si.com/NFL/Raiders. We'll see you all there.